Welcome back, everyone. So, in my previous lectures, I have talked about SystemVerilog events, which are used for signaling between different processes, and I've also talked about semaphores, which are used to share the resource together by putting key inside a semaphore and by taking it or giving it back or giving more. But what if you want to pass actual data? I'm talking about data in decimal or in string. What if you want to pass some actual data between two processes, like a packet, like or an instruction from one process to another? So this is where a mailbox comes into role. So think of mailbox as a FIFO queue. So it will be storage, uh, just like the name suggests. It is a mailbox, and the very first data that was put into the mailbox will be the very first one to be taken out. So the first one to go in is the first one to go out. And like the semaphores, we have methods to do that. And we do have some very similar methods like we have in semaphores, and those are put, get, and try get. So I will begin with the format of mailbox. So just like semaphore, you just have to declare the inbuilt class first, which is mailbox, and then you could give it any user defined name. Let's say I want to call it mail. So this is just a simple format, and let us discuss different types of methods that we can use with a mailbox. So the very first method is the put method. So just like the semaphore, you could put any values you want. And unlike this, we are not putting the total number of keys or total quantity of kits. We are putting an actual value. So we could put something like 5 or maybe 4 or maybe a string called XYZ. So you just have to write mail, and using the dot rotation, you could even put a string. So you could put any data type as long as the particular mailbox is not parameterized with a specific type. And about this, I will discuss more in details. So first, let us discuss the basic methods. So, and even before that, we have to discuss how to declare an object for a mailbox. So, if you could remember, with the semaphore, we were using the new method, and inside the argument section, we were passing the total number of keys. So, if you will not pass any amount of keys, it will have 0 keys by default. But for mailbox, it's different. So, you will do something like this inside an initial block. You will write the handle of the mailbox, which is mail in our case, and then again you will use the new constructor method to create an object. But the difference is that uh, unlike semaphores, in which if you leave it empty, uh, it will just have a default value of 0. So unlike semaphore, if you leave it empty, it creates an entirely different meaning. So this bring up the concept of bounded and unbounded mailbox. So if you declare the object for a mailbox like this, this mailbox is unbounded, which basically means it has no limits on how many items to store. So it does not have any bound, any upper bound. You could use the get method, you could use the put method, and you could store as much data elements you want. So mailbox has a very similar kind of structure to queue. So you don't have any indexes, but here you can keep using the put method, and there is no limit in the unbounded mailbox. And what if you declare mailbox something like this? So if you declare the object of a mailbox like this by mentioning a numeric value inside the argument, it will make that particular mailbox to be the bounded one. And unlike the unbounded one, it has limits on how many items to store. In this case, it's 5. So here, since we have mentioned 5 as an argument while declaring an object for the mailbox, it cannot store more than 5 items. So if you try to put more than 5 items, it will not accept the item anymore. So after that, we will just discuss about the methods that are available for mailbox. We have few more methods for mailbox when compared to semaphores. So after the put method, we have, of course, the get method. And again, inside the argument, you have to mention the exact, you don't have to mention the value instead. So in the put method, you will mention the value you want to put. In the get method, you will mention the variable in which you want to store the first element of the mailbox. So what I mean by that, suppose if you continuously use the put method like this, and let's say the second item is 2 and the third item is again a string called ABC. So it will end, so the mailbox will end up looking something like this. Assume, let's say that this is the data structure of our mailbox, and the leftmost side is the head and the rightmost side is the tail. So you will have something like this. So XYZ is a string. Then you have an int value, and then again you have a string. So what you will do right here, whenever you will use get method, in this case, it will just get whatever it has in the head. Since I have already told you that it functions in FIFO method, so the first one which goes in will be the first one to go out. So this get method will be targeting the very first value which was inputted inside the mailbox, which is XYZ. So using the get method, first just make sure that you are declaring a string. Let's call it S, and then you have to use that variable as an argument for the get method. And what this will do, this will do two things. The first thing is obvious. It will assign the value of the head to the string S. So S will become XYZ. And the second thing it will do, it will just remove that particular element which it has stored to X, and that first element is XYZ. So after this, the mailbox will look something like this. 2 will come at the head, and then at the tail we will have ABC. So this is how our get method works. Unlike put method, you have to put a variable to which the value which is present at the head of the mailbox will be assigned, and then it will be removed. So after this we have another method, and that method is called the try get method. So it is very similar to the the target method that I have discussed in my semaphore lecture. So again, you will assign a value of any string value, and it will try to get the uh, whatever value is present at the head. So it can have 3 different possible outputs. So here, let's see what we have here. So it will try to get the value which is present at the head, and here you will see that we have 2 at the head, but 2 is not of string data type. So since 2 is not of string data type, there is a type mismatch, and if that's the case, it will return -1. And if suppose the queue is empty, let's say the queue is empty, it will then return 0. And if the queue has the desired value, that is, let's say a string, then it will return a positive value or 1. Or maybe a positive value. And here we could say that because of the type mismatch, it will return a negative value. So just be careful when you are using the try get method inside an if condition. So you could expect some ambiguous behavior. So as per the definition, this thing is a success. No, this thing is a failure, and this thing is also a failure, and only this thing is a success. But even though this thing is a failure, it could return true if you put it inside any if condition. So be careful while using the if condition for this. And besides that, I will discuss more about the ambiguity of this in details in my upcoming lecture. So for now, let's stick to the basics. So these are all the methods that you will also find in the semaphores. That is the put method, the get method, and the try get method. So besides this, we do have a couple more methods in the mailbox, and those methods are, the very first one is try put method. So yeah, we also have a try variant for the put method. So the try put method can only be, and yeah, just for the reminder, Those who have not watched my previous video, the try methods are the non-blocking in nature. They are non-blocking in nature, which just means that if it fails to get if it fails to get a particular desired value, the entire process will not be blocked and it will continue executing its remaining statements. So same goes with the try put method. It's non-blocking, and whereas the put method and get method are blocking in nature. So if they fail, they will just stall the entire process, and the entire process will get stuck into that particular line until and unless the other process satisfies its needs. So the try put method can only be used, or I should say, only make sense to use it with the bounded mailbox. Just to recall, the bounded mailbox are the one which have limitations on how many data elements you could store inside the mailbox. So of course, as the name suggests, you are trying to put the value. So if the mailbox is unbounded, it does not make any sense to use try put method because you do not need to try. You could put as many values as you want. But in the bounded method, let's say if you have already using the put method, if you have already entered 5 values, and then if you use try put method, the entire process will not get blocked. So it is useful for the bounded ones. And else, if you will use the put method for the bounded ones, in which it already has a total number of 5 elements, and you have crossed the limit, then because of that, the put method will block that particular process. So, as the name suggests, it will just try to put the item, and it does only make sense uh, the with the bounded mailbox. So we have 2 more methods. First, let's number them. This is the put method. The second one is the get method. Third one is the try get method. And fourth one is the try put method. So after this, after the try put method, we also have peek method. And here again, it pretty much functions like get, but with a slight twist. So here also you will put any variable, let's say s in this case, and what it will try to do, it will look at the mailbox, and if it gets the desired value, then it will not remove that particular value from the head. For example, here I have shown you that when you will use the get method, uh, here when you will use the get method, it is removing xyz from the head of the mailbox. But suppose if you use peek method with the very same mailbox, it will not remove xyz. It will assign the value of xyz with s, but if you will look at the mailbox, it will remain as it is. That is, it will retain its head, and of course the other values. So that's the difference between the peek method and the get method. Peek method also assign the value from the mailbox, but it just copies the head and it does not remove the head. Whereas the get method just moves the head from the mailbox to the variable, to the targeted variable. And finally, we have one more method, that is try peek. And you must have already guessed that the only difference between peek and try peek is that try peek is non-blocking in nature. So it will look for the desired value. If the mailbox has that value, it will pass and it will just return a positive value. And if the mailbox is empty, it will return a zero value. If it does not have the desired value or there is a type mismatch, then it will return a negative value, but it will not block the process. After executing that particular statement which has try peek, even if it fails, it will carry on and the next statement in that targeted process will execute. So these were all the methods that you could use with a mailbox, and this was the way to declare a bonded or an unbonded mailbox. Finally, we also have a parameterized mailbox. So what parameterized mailbox does, and it does a very important stuff and you will end up using for most of the time, because it forces that particular mailbox to have only a certain data type. So the format is something like this. You will use the keyword or the inbuilt class mailbox, and then right after that, it is very similar to writing a normal parameter before the start of any module. You just have to write hash and then inside the bracket you will declare the data type. So let's call our mailbox as mail underscore p, just to signify that it is a parameterized mailbox. And here you could declare any data type. Let's say it will only accept the int data types, or we could also say that it will only accept the string data type. So if the mailbox is parameterized and if you decide to do something like this, and then you want to put something like this, that is a decimal value. If you will do something like this, and if the parameterized mailbox can is allowed to only accept a string data type, then it will show an error. So that is the importance of parameterized mailbox. It ensures data integrity and security, that this particular mailbox is tasked to only take certain type of data. So that's all about the basics of a mailbox. In my upcoming lecture, we will go through a very simple example and I will do a deep code walkthrough in details, like I did with my previous lecture about semaphores. Thank you so much.